Imagine that the sun is constantly shooting deadly particles toward Earth, particles so dangerous they can destroy your DNA in seconds. This is happening right now, at this very moment. The only thing between you and certain destruction is something you can't see, touch, or feel: Earth's magnetic field. This invisible field is created by our planet's molten core, which spins like a gigantic ball of liquid metal at 5,700 degrees, hotter than the surface of the sun. But scientists made a shocking discovery. Mars had a magnetic field just like ours, and when it disappeared, the red planet lost its oceans, its atmosphere, and any chance of having life. Could Earth face the same fate? Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment from what part of the world you're watching, because now I'm going to tell you everything. Have you ever wondered what keeps our planet safe from the dangers in space? There is something all around us that we cannot see or touch, but it is always there, quietly doing its work. This is the Earth's magnetic field. The magnetic field is one of the reasons why life is possible on our planet. It is also the reason why Earth is different from all the other planets in our solar system. Imagine waking up every day and not knowing how you or anything else on our planet is able to stay safe. Maybe you have not thought about what protects you, your family, your friends, or even the animals and plants outside. Most people do not notice, but above our heads and beneath our feet, something very important is always protecting us. The Earth's magnetic field covers the whole planet, and it is as old as the planet itself. It is not made by machines, buildings, or anything people can create. It is a natural power, and it stretches from deep under the ground all the way out into space. The magnetic field is invisible, but you can imagine it as a giant shield that surrounds Earth in every direction. This shield is not a wall or a barrier that you can feel, but it is strong in its own way. It covers every country, every ocean, every mountain, and even the sky above you right now. No matter where you are on the planet, you are always inside the protection of this magnetic field. Many people have never seen the magnetic field and may not even know it is there. Even though you cannot sense it directly, it touches every part of your life. It keeps you safe from things that could harm everything living on the planet: people, animals, plants, and even the smallest life forms. Without the magnetic field, the Earth would be a very different and much more dangerous place. Let's start with what the magnetic field is. The magnetic field is a force made by the planet itself. Forces in science are things that can change how objects move. The magnetic field is a type of force that we also see in magnets. If you have ever played with a small magnet, you know that it can pull metal things towards it or push them away. The Earth itself is like a giant magnet, but instead of a small pull or push, its field covers the whole planet. This force is not only on the ground but goes far above the surface. It rises up and spreads out into space. The Earth's magnetic field reaches far beyond the air we breathe, even past where airplanes fly, and as far as many satellites that circle our planet. This invisible field is always on and always working day and night. Why is the magnetic field so important? The magnetic field is what helps make life possible on Earth. It keeps away dangerous things that come from the sun and space. Things that could damage living things and the air and water we need to survive. Without this shield, it would be much harder, or maybe even impossible, for you, for people, and all living things to be here right now. The magnetic field acts like a safety blanket that wraps around everything on the planet. It does not matter if you are in a big city or a small town, deep in the forest or out at sea, high in the mountains or flying in a plane. The magnetic field never leaves you. It is always there. This is one of the most important reasons why life on Earth has lasted for so many years. It keeps us safe in ways we do not always see, but that are always working. the magnetic field covers both the land and the oceans. It is just as strong over water as it is over rock or sand. It does not stop at the forests, the deserts, or the ice at the top and bottom of the planet. Even the North Pole and the South Pole are inside its reach. This field never ends as long as you are on Earth. High above the ground, some airplanes and even some satellites use the field to help them know where they are. What is even more amazing is that the magnetic field started working long before people existed. It has been around for over 4 billion years. That is a time so long it is hard to imagine. During all these years, the field has helped shield the planet from harm, allowing animals to live, plants to grow, and people to one day appear and build cities, farms, and all the things we use today. You might wonder where such a big and powerful force comes from, especially since people did not build it. The answer is, the magnetic field is made by nature. It happens deep inside Earth, far below your feet, where no human has ever gone. Inside our planet is a hot place full of melted metals. These metals are always moving because our planet spins. This movement makes electricity, and this electricity makes the magnetic field that covers our world. The field is created in a way that is just right for life to exist. This natural force is unique. On other planets nearby, like Mars or Venus, there is no big, strong magnetic field. This is one big reason why Earth has life and those planets do not. By having this field, Earth is special and has been able to keep air and water for plants, animals, and people to use. Every day, the magnetic field is working. It does not sleep. It does not rest. It is always there. Most people do not feel the field or see it, but some animals do. Birds, for example, can sense the field. This helps them know which way to fly when they travel far every year. Some sea turtles and even some bugs can also use the field to find their way. For these animals, the magnetic field is like a map that always shows them where to go. Even though the magnetic field has been around for a very long time, it does not always stay exactly the same. Sometimes it changes a little. The field can get stronger or weaker. The places where it is strongest, called the magnetic poles, can also move, but this happens very slowly, over hundreds or thousands of years. These changes do not make the field stop doing its job, but scientists look very carefully at these changes to learn more about what is happening deep inside the planet. Our magnetic field is not the same everywhere on Earth. In some places it is a little stronger, in others a little weaker, but it is always there, covering the whole planet. The field is also moving very slowly, and this movement can cause changes in how certain animals, like birds or whales, travel. Still, for most of us, it just continues doing its work without us having to think about it. What makes it possible for the magnetic field to keep working is something called the outer core of the planet. Deep under the ground is a thick layer made of very hot, melted metal. This is like a huge ocean of metal moving in circles. As the Earth turns, this metal moves and makes electricity. The electricity creates the magnetic field. All of this happens naturally, without any help from people or machines. Because the field comes from inside the Earth, nothing people do on the surface can break it or change it. Building cities, driving cars, or using computers does not affect the magnetic field. The field is too deep and too strong. Only the natural movements inside the planet can change it. The Earth's magnetic field has another special job. It helps keep the air, called the atmosphere, in place. The atmosphere is what we breathe and what helps plants and animals live. If the magnetic field did not exist, the atmosphere could slowly be taken away by dangerous things from space. This would make Earth dry and empty like the planet Mars. Mars lost its field long ago. After that, most of its air and water slowly disappeared. This is why Earth is the only planet nearby that has life, water, and air. Scientists are very interested in the magnetic field. They use special tools and satellites in space to check how strong the field is and if it is changing. They use computers to help understand what is happening inside the planet. Sometimes the field changes a little faster, and this interests scientists even more because they want to be ready for any effects that could happen. Our world is full of new inventions that use the magnetic field to work. Airplanes, ships, and many types of machines need to know where they are, and they use the field to help them. Even your phone uses information from the magnetic field to show you a map or your direction. If the magnetic field changed a lot or went away, many of our machines would stop working the right way. Nature also uses the magnetic field in many ways. Birds that fly long distances can use it to find their way. Fish and sea turtles travel across oceans by feeling the field. Even some small insects can sense which way is north because of this field. Without it, many animals would become lost during their travels. The Earth's magnetic field is an important part of history too. When rocks are made by volcanoes, some of the tiny metals inside the rocks line up with the magnetic field. This means that scientists today can look at very old rocks and learn which way the magnetic field was pointing in the past and how strong it was. By looking at these clues, people can discover what the planet was like millions of years ago. All of these facts show that the magnetic field is not just something for scientists. It is for everyone. The field keeps us safe, lets animals find their homes, helps us use machines, and protects the planet itself. Even though you cannot see or touch the magnetic field, it is one of the most important things making life possible. Earth is not alone in space. Every day, invisible things come toward us from the sun. These things are very small, but in large numbers, they can be harmful. The magnetic field stands between us and these dangers, always working to keep us safe. This is why Earth's magnetic field is a silent protector for everyone living here. Understanding the magnetic field helps us see why our planet is special. No other planet nearby has a shield like this. It gives Earth the air and water we need, helps life grow, and protects us from harm. The magnetic field is not just for one group or country. It covers everyone, no matter where they live or what they do. For all of history, the magnetic field has been working. It helped early people find their way using the first compasses. It allowed birds and whales to travel across the planet. It gave us a safe place to build our homes, grow food, and raise families. Without it, none of these things would be possible. The next time you look at the sky or walk outside, remember that you are always under the protection of the magnetic field. Even if you cannot see it, it is always there. It keeps our planet safe and gives every living thing a better chance to survive and grow. This natural shield is a treasure for everyone on Earth. Knowing about the magnetic field can help all people respect and care for the planet. By learning how this shield works, we can see why keeping our world healthy is important for all life. The field reminds us that Earth is unique. There is no other place like it. The magnetic field is a gift that helps keep our world just right for life. Without this shield, life would not have the safety it does today. People, animals, and plants would all face much greater dangers. With the magnetic field, our planet continues to be a good home for all living things. It is another reason why Earth is special and why we should always remember how lucky we are to live here. Every day, as our planet moves through space, the sun sends out invisible things that travel across the great distance between the sun and Earth. These invisible things come from the sun and they move quickly. Scientists call them the solar wind. The solar wind is not made of real wind like the one you feel on your face. Instead, it is made of tiny pieces called particles. These particles are too small to see and they carry energy from the sun. The sun never stops sending the solar wind. It flows outward in all directions, always moving away from the sun into the space around it. Some of this flow of particles reaches toward Earth. These tiny particles from the solar wind travel for millions of kilometers across the empty space between the sun and our planet. In just a few days, the energy from the sun can reach Earth. The solar wind is always present, even if you cannot see it or feel it. It moves all the time, faster than anything on our planet. The sun is very powerful. It is a huge ball of burning gases, much bigger than Earth. Its energy is strong enough to leave the sun and travel to all the planets, including Earth. The energy flows from the top part of the sun and is made mostly of things called protons and electrons. These are the names for small pieces that have electric charge. Protons have a positive charge and electrons have a negative charge. The solar wind carries both protons and electrons away from the sun. If the solar wind could reach the ground on Earth without anything stopping it, it would be dangerous. The particles in the solar wind carry energy that can harm many things. They can hurt people, animals, and plants. The solar wind has so much energy that if it touched us directly, it could change the way our bodies work. People who study space have learned that the solar wind can also damage other things we need to live. The first thing the solar wind would affect is our atmosphere. The atmosphere is the layer of air that covers all of Earth. This air is made of different gases. We breathe these gases every moment to live. The solar wind could break apart these gases and carry away small pieces of our air, little by little. If this happened for a long time, the air around Earth would slowly disappear. Without the atmosphere, living on Earth would be very hard. The solar wind can also affect water. Our planet has oceans, rivers, and lakes filled with water. The solar wind's energy can pull small pieces of water into space. If the magnetic field did not protect us, the water on Earth could slowly become less and less. Places that are now green and full of life could dry up. Water is important for every living thing, from the smallest insect to every human. Without water, nothing can survive. There are more dangers from the solar wind. The sun sometimes has big explosions on its surface. When these explosions happen, they make the solar wind even stronger for a short time. This fast, powerful solar wind can push more particles in Earth's direction. The stronger solar wind could damage plants by breaking their parts or changing how they grow. It could also make animals sick or even make people feel unwell. The harmful energy in the solar wind is not something our bodies can see or feel, but it is powerful enough to break apart the small pieces inside our cells. The solar wind can also harm the things we have made. For example, many satellites circle the planet high above the ground. These satellites help us talk on the phone, send messages, use computers, and learn about the weather. If the solar wind hits these satellites without being stopped, it can break them or confuse the way they work. Satellites are important for all kinds of jobs and help people in every part of the world. Sometimes the solar wind can even stop power from flowing in big power lines. On Earth, people use electricity for lights, cooking, and many other things. If the solar wind was strong enough and reached Earth's surface, it could stop the flow of electricity. That would mean no lights, no running water, and none of the machines people use every day. Even without these strong events, the solar wind is always blowing toward Earth. Only the magnetic field stops most of its harmful energy. The field pushes away many of the tiny particles so they do not reach the ground. The field is very important because it keeps the solar wind from touching the things and people on Earth. The sun is not the same every day. Sometimes it becomes very active. Dark spots called sunspots appear on its surface. When there are lots of sunspots, the sun can throw out even more solar wind. These times can last weeks or even months. More particles come toward Earth and try to get past our planet's shield. This makes the job of the magnetic field even more important as it works to keep everyone and everything on the planet safer. Besides the solar wind, the sun also sends out other forms of energy, like rays of light. Most of this energy helps plants grow, gives us warmth and makes day and night, but the charged particles in the solar wind can be dangerous. Sometimes they move so fast and have so much energy that they can reach all the way to the edge of our planet's protective shield. Without protection, these dangerous particles could also reach high into the sky where airplanes fly. At high places above the Earth, there is much less air. The air is thinner, so it does not stop the solar wind very well. That means the energy in the solar wind could get inside airplanes and damage their controls. It could also harm the people flying in them, even if just a small bit at a time. Every living thing on Earth, no matter how big or small, needs the magnetic field to stay safe from the solar wind. From tiny insects to large animals, from tall trees to the grass in a field, all would be at risk. The solar wind does not choose what it touches. It moves in all directions and can reach every part of our planet, unless something blocks it. Even humans far out in space, like the people working inside space stations, must be careful of the solar wind. When the magnetic field cannot protect them, they need special suits and strong walls to keep the dangerous particles away. These suits and walls are made from special materials that block much of the solar wind. The story of Mars shows another danger from the solar wind. Scientists have studied Mars and learned that it used to have lots of water and a thick atmosphere, just like Earth. But Mars lost its magnetic field millions of years ago. After that, the solar wind started to hit Mars directly. Slowly, over a very long time, most of Mars's air and water were carried away into space by the solar wind. Now, Mars is a dry world with almost no air and almost no water. There is no life on Mars, and it is a reminder of what could happen to Earth without the shield of the magnetic field. All of these facts make it clear how important it is to be protected from the solar wind. The magnetic field is what stands between Earth and the sun's dangerous particles. The field stops almost all of the solar wind from touching us. Only a few particles slip through, and they are not strong enough to hurt most living things. Sometimes, when some of the solar wind particles do get close to Earth, they can create things that are beautiful. When they are trapped near the magnetic field, they make colorful lights in the sky, called auroras. These lights can be seen near the north and south parts of our planet. They are safe and have been seen for thousands of years by people all over the world. When there is a big storm on the sun and the solar wind gets stronger, the auroras can become brighter and appear farther from the poles. This is a sign of how powerful the solar wind can be. Still, the magnetic field is always there, working to keep the rest of Earth safe. It is not easy to imagine how much energy the sun sends out every day. In just 1 second, the sun gives out more energy than humans use in many years. The Earth is just one small planet among many, but our planet is always being hit by the solar wind. The space between planets is full of these fast-moving particles, and only a strong shield can stop them. The magnetic field also pushes the solar wind around and makes it slow down near Earth. This area where the solar wind meets the field is called the magnetosphere. The magnetosphere is very big. It stretches out far beyond the place where our air ends, and it goes all the way around Earth. The field pushes the solar wind to go around the planet, so only a tiny bit of it ever comes close to the ground. Without the magnetic field and the magnetosphere, none of the air and water we have would stay for very long. The solar wind is also responsible for something called space weather. Space weather means the conditions in space around Earth that can be changed by the sun and the solar wind. When the solar wind becomes very strong, it can make the magnetosphere move and shake. This shaking can cause problems for satellites, space stations, and even some machines on Earth. People who work with machines in space have to watch space weather carefully so they know when to be careful. The sun's activity can be very different from year to year. Some years, the sun sends lots of solar wind. Some years, it sends less. Scientists use telescopes and satellites to study the sun every day. They watch for signs that more solar wind is coming. By watching the sun, they can warn people on Earth if a strong solar wind might arrive. This helps people protect satellites and other machines in space. Even though the solar wind is dangerous, it also teaches scientists a lot. By learning more about how the solar wind moves and changes, people can better understand the sun, Earth, and how both work together. When the solar wind makes a strong storm, scientists can study how the magnetosphere and the magnetic field react. This helps make our planet safer and helps us prepare for the future. The dangers from the solar wind remind us that many things in space are not friendly to life. Earth is the only planet nearby that has a strong enough magnetic field to protect life from the sun's harmful particles. Without this protection, Earth would be much more like Mars. Life needs more than just air and water. It needs a strong shield to keep it safe. Some of the energy from the solar wind is blocked in a thin layer of our planet's highest air called the ionosphere. This part of the atmosphere also helps bounce radio waves, which lets people send messages over long distances. If the solar wind was not stopped by the magnetic field and the ionosphere, many of these radio signals would break, making it hard to talk to people far away. Airplanes, ships, and even cars sometimes use signals that travel through the air. These can be disrupted by the solar wind if it is strong enough. That is why knowing about the solar wind and how to protect technology is important in today's world. In space, some planets do not have a strong magnetic field. These planets lose their air and water more quickly. For example, Mercury, the planet closest to the Sun, has almost no air and is very hot during the day and very cold at night. Mercury's magnetic field is small and weak, so the solar wind takes its air away quickly. Venus is another planet close to the Sun. Venus has a thick layer of air, but the air is mostly poisonous to us and gets changed by the solar wind in different ways. Without the kind of strong magnetic field that Earth has, Venus and Mercury cannot keep safe from the solar wind's energy. The presence of the magnetic field shows us that Earth is a very rare place in space. It has the right shield, the right air, and the right water for life. Every day that we are protected from the solar wind is another day that life can grow and change in safety. By watching and learning what the solar wind does, scientists have found out how quickly it can change. Sometimes, new bursts of solar wind can leave the sun and reach Earth in only a few days. These bursts are called solar storms. During a solar storm, even more energy comes toward us. The magnetic field must be strong enough to push away the extra energy so that only a little bit can get close to Earth. People who build spaceships, satellites, and space stations must learn all about the solar wind. They make strong shields so people and machines can survive. They also listen to the scientists who watch the sun. When a big solar storm is coming, astronauts wait inside special rooms and turn off some machines to protect them. All over the world, people depend on machines and technology that can be affected by the solar wind. The strong magnetic field is the first thing that keeps these things safe. Without the magnetic field, much of our modern way of life could not work. Thanks to this shield, the story of life on Earth has been different from that on other planets. Our plants can grow, our animals can move from place to place, our people can build, travel, and learn. The magnetic field protects each one from dangers that they may never see or feel. The sun and the solar wind are not going to stop. Every day, the Earth receives energy from space. As long as the magnetic field covers our planet, life can continue to grow and change. This shield gives us a safe world with air to breathe, water to drink, and land to live on. Thinking about the solar wind helps us understand why the magnetic field matters so much. The shield lets the planet keep its air and water. It lets animals find their way. It allows people to send messages and use new inventions safely. Most of all, it gives everyone on Earth a chance to live safely under the sun's powerful energy. As we look at our world and everything in it, we can see how even something we cannot see, like the solar wind, can shape life in so many ways. That is why scientists keep learning, watching, and teaching others about the great importance of the planet's magnetic field. It is a shield, a protector, and one of the main reasons Earth is a home for life. The energy that comes from the sun is always moving toward Earth, and the solar wind never stops. Even though these strong and fast particles rush through space day and night, most people on Earth never notice any problems from them. This protection is only possible because of the Earth's magnetic field. The magnetic field is always moving and pushing these particles away from the ground. It acts as a barrier, keeping almost all of the harmful solar wind from reaching people, animals, plants, water, and air. When the solar wind gets close to Earth, it cannot pass through without meeting something in its way. The magnetic field is spread out like a giant shield, and it blocks and pushes the fast-moving charged pieces from the sun. These pieces try to move toward the planet, but the magnetic field diverts them. The field covers the planet in every direction, reaching out far above the air that we breathe. The space around Earth where the magnetic field is strongest is called the magnetosphere. The magnetosphere marks where the magnetic field blocks much of the solar wind. The charged particles are forced to move around the magnetosphere instead of crashing into the planet. At the edge of the magnetosphere, the solar wind slows down and changes its path. Inside the magnetosphere, the solar wind cannot move freely. Most of it is sent away from Earth, sent back into space. Only a very small part of the solar wind ever gets through the magnetic shield. This small amount that does get in is trapped inside special areas near the poles of the planet. Here, some of these particles move in circles and sometimes fall toward the ground, but they do not cause much harm. One of the most well-known effects happens when some solar wind particles become trapped by the magnetic field near the North Pole and South Pole. When these particles hit the upper air high above these areas, they make colorful lights in the sky. These lights are called auroras. People sometimes call the aurora near the North Pole the Northern Lights, and the aurora near the South Pole the Southern Lights. These lights can be green, pink, red, or purple, and people have watched them for thousands of years. Although the auroras are beautiful, they are a sign of the magnetic field working hard to protect Earth from the sun's energy. The area where these auroras are made is very high above the ground. Airplanes cannot usually fly that high, and the lights are only seen near the poles most of the time. Sometimes, when the sun has large storms and the solar wind is much stronger, the auroras can be seen even farther from the poles. This means more particles from the solar wind are getting caught by the magnetic field and moving into our sky. Other than making these pretty lights, the magnetic field is very important for stopping the dangerous solar wind from touching everything on the ground. When the sun is very active and the solar wind is strong, the magnetosphere can change shape and get even stronger in some places to keep out the particles. The field is always changing, always moving, always helping keep the Earth safe. Scientists have learned a lot about how the magnetic field protects us. The field does not just stand still, it is shaped like a long bubble that stretches away from the sun. On the side facing the sun, the bubble is closer to the Earth because the solar wind is pushing it. On the side away from the sun, the bubble is stretched far out into space. This shape helps the field block the most dangerous energy and particles. The magnetic field is strongest near the poles and weaker near the equator, but it covers the whole planet completely. No matter if you live near the North Pole, the South Pole, or at the equator, you are always inside the protection of the magnetosphere. The field does not stop working even when there are huge solar storms. It just works harder, changing shape to offer more protection. Most people never see or feel the magnetic field, but it is always there, keeping them safe. If the field was not present, the solar wind could come all the way down to the ground. This would cause damage to living things, water, air, and even technology. The field also keeps the air from being blown into space. Without the shield, the Earth might lose its air slowly, just like Mars did a long time ago. Sometimes the field lets in a few more particles than normal during large solar storms. When this happens, certain machines that use electricity or signals from space may stop working for a short time. Sometimes satellites become confused, and there might be short problems with communication or finding directions. These problems are usually fixed quickly as the magnetic field returns to normal and less energy comes in from the sun. The way the magnetic field works is automatic. It does not need people to make it work. It has been protecting our planet for billions of years. As soon as Earth formed and started spinning, the strong movement deep in the planet's core made the field appear. From that moment, the field started its job of keeping life on Earth safer. The magnetic field not only protects people, but also protects all of Earth's living things. Many plants and animals cannot live with too much energy from the sun, especially the type that comes with the solar wind. Too many particles from the sun can hurt plants so they cannot grow and can make animals sick. The field acts as a strong layer of protection so plants and animals can survive. Animals that travel long distances also use the magnetic field in special ways. Some birds, sea turtles, whales, and even insects can feel the magnetic field. They use it to know where they are and which way to go. This sense helps them fly, swim, or crawl many thousands of kilometers. Even when they cannot see where they are going, they are able to reach faraway places safely, using the field as a kind of invisible map. Humans also use the magnetic field for help. A tool called a compass uses the field to point to the direction of north. For thousands of years, people have used compasses to travel across the seas, deserts, and forests. Even now, airplanes and ships use the magnetic field to know where to go, and phones use the field to show maps and directions. Technology in space depends on the magnetic field too. Satellites and space stations depend on the shield to protect their electric parts from damage. If the field was not there, many satellites might break when the solar wind is strong. By keeping most of the energy away, the field makes sure these tools keep working so we can use phones, computers, and learn about the weather. The air around Earth is also made safer by the magnetic field. The field keeps the solar wind from breaking apart the gases that make up our air. Every breath we take would be different if the field was not working hard to stop these harmful particles. Even the water on our planet is kept safe by this invisible shield. The solar wind could slowly carry away small bits of water if it was not blocked. Over many millions of years, this could make lakes, rivers, and oceans smaller and smaller. With the field, the water stays on Earth, helping people, animals, and plants thrive and grow. The magnetic field is important for our health as well. The charged particles from the sun can change the way our bodies work at the smallest level. If too many of these particles got into the air and touched people, it could cause sickness or problems that make living very hard. Because the magnetic field is always working, we are protected from these effects. When there is a large solar storm, scientists often watch the magnetic field very closely. They use special machines on the ground and satellites in space to check if more solar wind is getting through. When they see changes, they warn people who work with satellites, airplanes, and big power stations. They can then stop machines for a short time or change the way they are working so nothing breaks. The changes in the strength or shape of the magnetic field are usually not felt by people. Most changes only mean that more auroras appear in the sky. Only in very large storms can some people lose power for a little while or have trouble calling on the phone. The magnetic field goes back to normal quickly and keeps working as a shield for everyone. Animals that use the field for directions can also sense some of these changes. Sometimes birds fly in different directions or sea turtles take new paths across the ocean because the magnetic field has shifted a little bit during a solar storm. But the field soon returns to its usual strength and shape, so most animals do not get lost or hurt for long. The magnetic field is so good at protection because of where it comes from. Deep inside Earth, hot melted metals are always moving. These movements make electric currents, and the electric currents create the strong magnetic field. As the planet spins, the metals inside move quickly and never stop. This is why the field is always present and always active. Even though Earth's magnetic field changes a little over time, it never disappears completely. Even when it becomes weaker in some places or stronger in others, it continues to block most of the solar wind. Scientists have found that over billions of years, the magnetic field has sometimes changed a lot, and even the North and South poles have switched places, but the field stayed strong enough to keep life safe. In the world today, the magnetic field is as important as ever. People travel more, send more messages, and use more technology than ever before. Satellites, airplanes, and ships carry people and things across the seas and sky. All of this depends on the magnetic field to work right. The field keeps these tools safe from the energy coming from the sun. Schools teach children about the magnetic field and the auroras, so new generations learn why these things matter. Many books, stories, and pictures show the colored lights in the sky near the poles. These remind everyone that something powerful and good is always at work, keeping the world comfortable for all. Sometimes rare animals are born with a very special ability to sense the field very clearly. Scientists who study nature and the Earth are learning more about how these animals use the magnetic field. This knowledge helps people understand more about how the planet works and how every part of life is connected. Every time a plant grows, a person breathes, or a bird flies, the magnetic field is at work. Its protection has helped life on Earth grow and become stronger and more complex over millions and millions of years. The field works every moment, whether it is daytime or nighttime, in sunlight or in rain. Around the planet, from the highest mountains to the deepest seas, the field surrounds and protects all. People do not need to do anything special for the field to work. Nature does everything, and it has been doing it since the planet was very young. Many scientists spend their lives studying how the magnetic field works, what makes it strong, and how it might change. They use special machines and computers to watch the field all the time, looking for signs that could tell them more about how the planet is working below the surface. They have discovered that even the smallest changes in the magnetic field can tell us something about what is happening deep inside the planet. When the metals move in new ways, the field can become stronger or weaker in different places. Learning more about these changes helps people keep technology, animals, and plants safer. The more people understand the magnetic field, the more they can use this knowledge to help life on Earth. They can make machines that are safer and build new tools that are better protected from solar wind. Scientists use this knowledge to give warnings during solar storms, making sure that fewer problems happen for people and the machines they depend on. The magnetic field is just one of the many ways that the Earth helps keep life growing. Its power cannot be seen, but its work is felt by everyone, even if they do not know it. Without the magnetic field, the planet would be open to the power of the sun, and life would have little chance. By knowing how the magnetic field stops the solar wind and protects Earth every day, people can better understand how important this invisible shield is. It affects every living thing on the planet, from the smallest animal to the newest technology. As long as the field remains strong, the planet can keep being a safe place for all. Deep within the planet, far below our feet, something amazing is always happening. The strong shield that keeps the solar wind away from Earth does not come from the air or the land we see every day. It comes from inside the planet, in a place most people will never see. The story of the Earth's magnetic field begins in the deepest parts of our world, made by the planet itself. The center of the Earth is called the core. The core is divided into two parts. There is the inner core and the outer core. The inner core is a hot, solid ball. The outer core, which surrounds it, is a layer of very hot, melted metal. The main metals in the outer core are iron and nickel. Temperatures here are much hotter than anywhere on the surface, even hotter than the hottest desert or fire. This melted metal in the outer core is always moving. It never stops moving because of the heat and also because of the way the Earth turns. As the planet spins, the melted iron and nickel inside the outer core move in big circles. These moving metals are hotter than anything people have ever touched. Their motion never stops, happening every moment, day and night, every day of the year. When these hot metals flow in circles, something happens inside the outer core. The moving metals make electric currents. An electric current is a flow of tiny particles called electrons. People see electric currents when they use a flashlight, a phone, or a kitchen machine. But the electric currents deep inside Earth are not made by batteries or plugs. They are made by the movement of melted metal, caused by heat from the deep inside and the spinning of the planet. Electric currents always create a magnetic field. The electric currents in the outer core join together, and their energy makes the big magnetic field that covers the whole planet. This amazing process where moving metals inside the Earth create the magnetic field is called the geodynamo. The geodynamo has worked for billions of years, ever since the Earth was still new and forming. The geodynamo is always active as long as the Earth's core is hot and keeps moving. If the metals ever stopped moving or cooled off completely, the magnetic field would disappear. As the melted iron and nickel flow, their energy is sent out from deep inside the planet to above the surface and into space. This is how the field can protect everyone and everything, even though it is made so far below where anyone lives. The outer core is very thick. Its width goes on for thousands of kilometers, from near the center almost halfway to the surface. No person or machine has ever reached the outer core because it is too deep and too hot. The only way scientists know what happens inside is by looking at clues from earthquakes and studying how waves travel through the Earth. Some heavy waves, called seismic waves, move through the Earth after earthquakes. These signals help scientists understand what the inside of Earth is like. From these clues, scientists learn that the inner core is solid, while the outer core is melted metal. The metals in the outer core are very special. Iron and nickel are good at carrying electricity and making magnetic fields. Because there is so much of these metals and because they are always moving, the planet can make one strong and protective magnetic field. Every turn of the melted metal adds more energy to the field that wraps around Earth. The process of the geodynamo is not something that people can see or hear. It happens slowly and quietly, hidden deep underground. There are no lights or noises, but the effect of the geodynamo can be felt all around us every time the compass points north or when we use machines that depend on the magnetic field. Scientists try to understand more about the geodynamo by making small experiments in the laboratory. They heat up metal, spin it, and try to watch what happens. But no one can copy the true size, heat, or force of the real geodynamo inside the planet. The Earth is so big and its center is so hot that it is impossible to create the same conditions on the surface. Not just the planet Earth, but other planets have cores too. Some planets do not have melted metals or do not move in the right way, so they do not have strong magnetic fields. For example, Mars does not have a working geodynamo anymore. That is why Mars lost most of its air and water, becoming cold and empty. Venus turns too slowly to make a strong field, so it also cannot keep life safe from space. Only Earth and a few other planets like Jupiter and Mercury have strong enough magnetic fields to give real protection. The connection between the core and the surface of the planet is very important. When the moving metal inside the planet changes speed or direction, it can affect the field above the ground. The magnetic field can become stronger, weaker, or change shape. Sometimes the points where the field is strongest, called the magnetic poles, move across the planet. They never stay in the same place forever. Every year, the north and south magnetic poles move a little bit. Their exact spots can be found with special tools. Over many years, the poles can travel far away from where they were before. In the past, over long periods, the north and south magnetic poles have even switched places. This special event is called a magnetic reversal. When reversals happen, the field becomes weaker for some time, but it always grows strong again as the movement inside the core continues. Most changes in the field are slow. People rarely notice them. However, some animals that use the magnetic field for travel, like birds, turtles, or whales, are sensitive to even small changes. They may follow new paths or take different routes during their long trips. Rocks on Earth keep a record of these big changes. Some rocks form from melted material that comes from volcanoes. As this new rock cools down, tiny pieces of iron inside line up with the magnetic field at that time. When the field changes or the poles switch places, the next rocks record the new direction. By studying old rocks from all over the world, scientists can see how often and how much the field has changed in the past. The energy inside the core that drives the geodynamo is not endless. Over billions of years, the Earth has cooled a little from how hot it was at the beginning. Still, the heat inside is strong enough to keep the geodynamo running, creating a powerful magnetic field that wraps around the whole planet. The way the outer core moves is affected by the spinning of Earth. The spinning makes the melted metal flow in special patterns. Fast or slow, the movement is always enough to make electric currents. Sometimes big changes in Earth's surface, like very large earthquakes or the moving of continents, can make small shifts in the flow inside the core as well. But the outer core keeps moving, and as long as it does, the planet will keep its shield. People depend on the invisible shield above to survive. It is made by the natural forces deep below them. The connection from the bottom of the Earth to the sky is a part of the story of why there is life, water, and air on this planet. The geodynamo does its work all the time, never slowing down, never stopping. Scientists continue to learn about the core and the magnetic field every year. They use data from earthquake signals, from rocks, and from satellites measuring the field above Earth. They build computer models to see what the core is doing and to predict how the field may change in the future. The more people find out about the geodynamo, the more they understand how special our planet is. There are some interesting signs on the surface that tell about the movement in the core. For example, at some places on Earth, the magnetic field is stronger than usual, and in other places, it is weaker. These spots shift and change slowly over hundreds and thousands of years. Sometimes the changes make the auroras brighter in certain countries or make compasses point in unexpected directions. If the core ever cooled down too much, or if the movement of melted metal stopped, the planet's magnetic field would slowly fade away. The shield that now protects the atmosphere, the oceans, and all living things would be lost. The solar wind from the sun could slowly remove the air and water, and the planet would become empty, without life. Many things on Earth would be different without the magnetic field. All the ways people travel, talk, and learn with electricity would be at risk. Even the animals that use the field to move would have trouble. Life as it is today would not be possible. The study of the core and the magnetic field helps people think about how delicate life is on Earth. Other planets in space do not have the same moving core or do not have enough iron and nickel inside. That is one reason why there is no life, water, or thick air on those worlds. The strongest part of the field is near the magnetic poles, but the rest of Earth is also covered. Even the equator, which is far away from the poles, is part of the shield. The protective field wraps around the planet because the electric currents deep inside are spread out in every direction as they move. No matter where a person stands, the field is above and around them. The geodynamo works by itself. People cannot change the speed or direction of the liquid metal moving inside Earth. Building big cities, using lights, or making machines on the surface does not affect the core. The forces below are too far away and too powerful to be changed by people. Some people wonder if earthquakes, volcanoes, or drilling deep holes into the Earth can change or break the magnetic field. The answer is no. These things only reach a short distance into the crust, the thin skin of the Earth. They do not touch the deep core, and so the field is not affected. The only changes that happen to the magnetic field come from inside the planet. The slow movement, cooling, and mixing of the melted iron and nickel are what make the field sometimes stronger, sometimes weaker, and sometimes changing direction. These changes are slow, and life on Earth keeps adapting to them. By learning more about the deep inside of the planet, people find clues about how long the field will last, how it works, and when big changes might happen. This knowledge helps predict if the field could become weaker in the future and what that would mean for life on Earth. Every electric current inside the outer core, every turn of melted metal, sends energy outwards. This energy travels through the rocky layers of Earth and rises up until it spreads into space. This is the same energy that makes a compass move, that shows bright auroras, and that keeps air and water wrapped around our planet. Since the beginning of Earth's history, the geodynamo has given the planet its special shield. Every mountain, river, forest, desert, and ocean has been protected by this invisible force that no person can see or touch. Its strength lets people build homes, grow crops, and use new technology without worrying about dangerous particles from the sun. New discoveries are made every year. Scientists send satellites into space to measure the field carefully, looking for changes. In laboratories, they try to make small geodynamos with melted metal to see how the field might work. By watching volcanoes and listening to earthquake waves, they learn even more about the secrets deep inside Earth. The magnetic field will last as long as the planet's core is hot and moving metals never stop. Even if the field shifts, changes shape, or reverses direction, it will keep doing its work. The shield gives people, plants, and animals the air, water, and safety they need for life. Every piece of life, from the biggest forest to the smallest insect, owes much to the movement inside the planet. Without the geodynamo, Earth would just be another rocky ball in space, quiet and without anyone to call it home. The connection from the deepest core to the outside sky is one of the planet's greatest wonders. Because the movement inside the Earth never ends, the magnetic field can keep working, spreading its energy around the world. The more people learn about the geodynamo, the more they respect the power of nature and the special story of how life continues on Earth, thanks to the forces hidden deep below the ground. The magnetic field is always being created by the hot, moving metals deep under our feet. But the way it looks and how strong it is can change over time. On the surface of Earth, most people do not notice these changes, but scientists have learned that the magnetic field is not simple or unchanging. It is a living part of our planet, and it changes in big and small ways as the years and ages pass. Everywhere on Earth, the field protects life from the solar wind, but it does not do this in exactly the same way at every place or time. In some places, the magnetic field is a little stronger, and in some places, it is a little weaker. Sometimes, the strongest points of the field shift, moving north or south, east or west, over many years. The magnetic field moves quietly, and only special machines or careful measurements can notice these slow shifts. The places on Earth where the field is the strongest are called the magnetic poles. These poles are not fixed. The magnetic North Pole and the magnetic South Pole are different from the real North Pole and South Pole that you find on a globe or a map. The magnetic poles move over time, sliding across the ice, through the water, and over the land. The movement of the poles is slow, but it keeps happening every year. Right now, the magnetic North Pole is moving across the frozen lands near the top of the world, while the magnetic South Pole is also on a journey at the bottom of the planet. Sometimes the magnetic field grows stronger, and sometimes it becomes weaker. These changes do not happen all at once. They take many years, sometimes hundreds or thousands of years to be noticed. In some places, the field gets a little weaker, and in others, it becomes stronger, depending on how the melted metal is moving inside the planet. The magnetic field is shaped by the way the metals stir and turn deep in the Earth's core. Long ago, people did not know about these changes. Only with modern tools have scientists started to see the slow dance of the magnetic poles. By making careful maps, they have learned that the North Pole has moved many kilometers over the past 100 years. In the future, the poles will keep moving, and no one can say for sure exactly where they will go. One of the greatest changes that can happen in the magnetic field is called a magnetic reversal. During a reversal, the magnetic North and South poles switch places. North becomes South and South becomes North. This swap does not happen quickly. It can take thousands of years to finish, with the field growing weaker before it grows strong again in a new direction. During this change, the magnetic field does not stop completely. It fades a little, becomes mixed up, and then slowly gets stronger as the new poles settle in their new spots. Magnetic reversals have happened many times in Earth's long history. By looking at layers of old rocks, scientists have found signs of many pole reversals in the past. In fact, over the past 250 million years, there have been hundreds of these reversals. Sometimes the planet goes many millions of years with the poles staying in place, and sometimes the reversals come closer together. To understand how these changes are recorded, it helps to think about volcanoes. When melted rock comes from deep inside the Earth and cools on the surface, it becomes hard rock. Tiny pieces of iron in this rock line up with the magnetic field the moment the rock cools. When the magnetic field is strong, they all show the same direction. But if the field weakens or the poles start to switch places, the new rocks show a twisted or confused pattern of iron bits. By studying these ancient rocks, scientists make timelines of when the field was strong, weak, or backwards. The reason the magnetic field changes is because of the movement deep inside the planet. The melted iron and nickel in the outer core are always moving, but they do not move in one steady way. Sometimes the movement speeds up, sometimes it slows down, sometimes it takes new paths. This movement comes from heat that rises from the center of Earth and from the way the planet spins. As these deep flows change, the electric currents change, and so does the shape and strength of the magnetic field. Even when the field gets weaker, it never fully goes away. During reversals, the field protects life, but perhaps not as strongly as at other times. Most animals and plants are safe, but some creatures that use the magnetic field for direction may become confused. Some birds might fly in new paths, or sea turtles might lose their way, but over time they adapt to the new field. There is no sign that humans have ever been harmed by a magnetic reversal. Life on Earth has lived through many changes in the magnetic field. Even during long, weak times, the field is always there doing its job, stopping most of the harmful solar wind and keeping the planet safe. People keep breathing air, plants keep growing, and animals use other clues in nature to help them survive. Some scientists say that we may be in the early part of a new magnetic reversal because the field has slowly grown weaker over the past hundreds of years. But it may still take thousands of years before the next big switch happens, if it happens at all. Nobody knows exactly when the next reversal might come, only that it is a normal part of our planet. Other changes in the field can be much quicker. Sometimes, in just a few days or even hours, the field can become stronger or weaker because of strong solar winds. When giant storms happen on the sun, more energy and particles come toward Earth, and the magnetic field responds by changing its size and shape to shield the planet. These fast changes often cause bright auroras to dance in the sky, or sometimes cause problems for machines using electricity and radio waves. Besides measuring the field today, scientists also look back in time by studying things like old rocks, ice, and even trees. Old lava flows tell what the field was like millions of years ago. Tree rings, built up year after year in old trees, show when the field was strong or weak, because the field can change how some elements are trapped in the growing wood. In places where ice has lasted for thousands of years, scientists study the air bubbles inside to see how the field protected against cosmic rays. From this careful work, people have learned that the field changes over all scales of time. In 1 year, only a small shift might happen. In hundreds or thousands of years, the poles move far from their old places. In millions of years, the field may reverse many times. Through all these changes, life continues, adapting and growing as the magnetic field shifts and protects the planet in new ways. When the field moves or switches, other smaller changes can happen too. The lines of the field sometimes split into many smaller shapes. Some places on Earth can have very strange patterns where the field is twisted or weak. These places are called magnetic anomalies. Satellites sent into space see these odd spots, and scientists study them to learn more about what is happening deep inside the planet. Some animals can sense when the field is weak in certain places, and they act differently as they travel. The Earth's magnetic field is not the only field in our solar system that changes. Even giant planets like Jupiter and Saturn have fields that shift slowly because they also have moving metals deep inside. But only Earth's field is just right for life, changing but never fully leaving, always helping to stop danger from space. Some parts of the magnetic field are called belts, where charged particles from space get trapped. These belts move as the field moves. Sometimes, during big solar storms, more particles are caught and these belts grow larger. Scientists learn from satellites where these belts are at any time because airplanes and spaceships have to avoid the most dangerous parts. One special area is above South America and the southern Atlantic Ocean. Here, the magnetic field is weaker than in other places. This place is known as the South Atlantic Anomaly. Satellites moving overhead are watched carefully as they pass through this area because the shield is thin and a bit more energy from space can get through. All of these things show that the magnetic field is always changing, from small shifts every day to big changes over millions of years. The field is never still. It wraps the planet in a moving, living shield that changes as the Earth's core changes, as the planet spins, and as energy from the sun flows into space. Some people ask what would happen if the magnetic field became very weak or even went away. The answer is that the planet would lose its best protection. The solar wind would begin to push more air and water away from the planet, little by little. Machines would not work as well. The sky would look different, with new colors and more rays from space getting through. Life would become harder for all living things. But this has never happened in Earth's long past. Even when the field became weak, it never disappeared. After every reversal, the field got strong again, with new poles and a new shape, but with the same power to keep the planet safe. Scientists think this will continue as long as the core of the planet is hot and the melted metals keep moving. To watch these changes, people use many tools. Satellites fly around the world, measuring the field every day. On the ground, special machines called magnetometers track how strong the field is and which direction it points. People keep maps showing the field, and they update them every year as new changes happen. By watching closely, we can notice when something is different and be ready for its effects. These careful studies help people understand what to expect. If a big solar storm is coming or a fast change in the field happens, we can protect satellites, power lines, and machines that use electricity. We can help airplanes know where to fly safely. Knowing the field is changing helps people and animals prepare and adapt. All animals that use the field for finding their way, like birds and turtles, have become used to slow changes. They learn to follow the new path of the field, even if it moves many kilometers every year. Nature is ready for the changes of the magnetic field because these are part of the normal life of the planet. The field is also important to people who travel or work in far places. Think of ships, airplanes, and explorers. They all use maps, compasses, and sometimes the magnetic field itself. When the poles move, the maps must be changed. When field strength shifts, compasses might point a little bit differently. These changes are small, but they show how much the field matters in daily life. By studying the ways the magnetic field moves, grows weaker or stronger, and switches poles, people learn more every year about the deep inside of the planet. These lessons help protect the world and all its life by showing us how to live with changes that are always happening, seen and unseen. Every part of life, from the biggest forest to the smallest city, depends on the magnetic field to stay safe. Its changes are slow, but with every new day, the field is just a bit different from the day before. While we may not notice it changing, the field is always making sure our planet is ready for the sun, the solar wind, and all the surprises of space. This slow movement, this quiet change deep inside Earth and high above our heads, is one of the most important reasons life continues and grows on this planet. Even as the magnetic field slowly changes and moves its poles, its power to protect the planet remains very important for life. The Earth is surrounded by a thin layer of air called the atmosphere. This air is what every person, animal, and plant needs to live. We breathe the gases in the air every moment without thinking. The air above us also helps keep the planet warm enough to live on and protects everything from dangerous rays of light that come from space. The atmosphere is held close to Earth by gravity, but it is also protected by the magnetic field. The field keeps the solar wind from touching the upper parts of the air and pulling it away. The solar wind is very strong and always blowing toward our planet. It is made of tiny, fast-moving particles sent from the sun. These particles hit the magnetic field and push against it, but the field pushes back, keeping most of the solar wind away from the surface and the air we need to breathe. Without the magnetic field, the solar wind could touch the top of the atmosphere directly. Over many years, the strong particles from the sun would take away little pieces of air at a time. The gases in our atmosphere would be lost into space. Over a long period, the Earth would lose more and more of the air that covers it. Without this shield, the gases that plants and animals need could disappear. Breathing would become harder, and life would change in ways that would make it difficult for living things to survive. The air has many gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. Oxygen is what people and animals need for every breath. Plants also use the air to make food and grow. If the solar wind could pull away even a small part of this air, it could change how plants grow, how animals live, and how the world feels to everyone. The magnetic field makes sure the air stays close so the planet remains a safe home for living things. Water is another part of Earth that must be protected. The oceans, lakes, rivers, and ice all have water that allows life to survive and grow. People and animals drink water to stay alive. Plants need water to make food. Even the tiny drops in the clouds and the big pools in the ocean depend on the shield of the magnetic field. Water can also be broken into small pieces by the solar wind, just like the gases in the air. If the magnetic field was not there, the solar wind would slowly take the water away. Over many years, Earth's oceans might get smaller, the land would become dry, and plants and animals would not have enough water to live. The story of Mars shows what could happen without a magnetic field. Mars is a rocky planet, and it used to be much like Earth. Billions of years ago, Mars had water on its surface. Rivers, lakes, and perhaps even seas filled the low places. There may have been a thick atmosphere that let the planet stay warm. But something changed deep inside Mars. The core of Mars cooled down and stopped moving. Without movement deep inside, Mars lost its magnetic field. When the field was gone, the solar wind began to hit the planet directly. Over millions of years, the solar wind pushed away much of the air and water on Mars. The thin air that remains is not enough to keep water on the surface. Today, Mars is cold, dry, and empty. No plants grow, and no animals live on its surface. The lakes and rivers have dried up, and only little bits of water ice are found deep underground or at the poles. The loss of water and air from Mars happened slowly, but it changed the planet forever. Earth is very different from Mars because it still has a strong magnetic field. The hot metals deep inside keep moving, and the geodynamo keeps the field alive. The field pushes back the solar wind and lets Earth keep its air and water. This makes our planet full of plants, animals, and people, with blue oceans and green forests. Even with the magnetic field, some small pieces of the solar wind get close to the planet. Most are caught by the field far above the air, and only a very tiny bit ever gets through. The dangerous charged particles cannot reach the ground, and life stays safe. The part of the air called the ionosphere helps block these particles too. When the magnetic field and ionosphere work together, the planet is very well protected. Plants depend on both the air and the water kept safe by the magnetic field. Every tree, flower, and patch of grass grows because it has the right gases and the right moisture. Trees breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, sharing the air with people and animals. Plants use water from the ground, lakes, or rain clouds to stay alive. If air or water disappeared, the plants would first stop growing and then die. Without plants, animals and people would have no food, no air to breathe, and no home. Animals need water to live, just like people do. Animals drink from lakes, rivers, and ponds. They eat plants or other animals for food. Many animals use the air to breathe. Even those that live in the water still depend on the oxygen in the air above. If the solar wind could reach the surface and remove the air or the water, all animals would face hunger, thirst, and sickness. Many would not survive. People have made big cities and farms, using the land for homes and growing food. All these things only work because the magnetic field protects the world from losing its air and water. Without the shield, even the best machines or tallest buildings would not be enough to keep people safe. The magnetic field not only keeps air and water safe, but also protects the planet from many dangerous things from space. The solar wind is one part of this danger. Another comes from cosmic rays, which are fast and powerful pieces of matter that come from far beyond the sun. These rays travel through space and can harm living things. The magnetic field stops many cosmic rays from hitting the ground, sending them harmlessly away from Earth. Cosmic rays can also damage cells in plants, animals, and people. If the rays reached the surface more often, they could cause sickness. The field blocks many of these rays so that only a small amount ever touches life on our planet. People get extra protection inside buildings, but it is the field above that gives the strongest shield. Machines that people use every day also depend on the field. Phones, computers, radios, and many kinds of equipment work best when the field stops the strongest energy from space. Without this protection, machines could break, stop working, or not be able to send messages far across land and ocean. Airplanes that fly far above the ground need the field's shield because the air is thin so high up and more space particles can reach them. There are times when the field grows a little weaker or when a solar storm arrives with more energy. Some of the energy may slip through the field and hit satellites or affect power lines. When this happens, people may lose some lights or connection for a short time. But the field quickly gets stronger again and protects the planet. Most living things do not even notice these short moments because the air and water stay safe. Animals and insects use the magnetic field as a guide to move from place to place. Birds travel thousands of kilometers from cold places to warm ones every year. They find their way by feeling the magnetic field. Sea turtles go across the ocean to lay eggs, using the field to return to the same beaches where they were born. Whales and fish move through the seas, guided in part by the field's lines in the water. Even some bugs can sense the magnetic field and use it to fly or crawl in the right direction. If the field was not there, many animals would become lost and could not find food, homes, or safe places to live. The magnetic field's shield has also helped life survive many dangers in Earth's long history. Long ago, giant rocks from space sometimes hit the planet, and big volcanoes sent clouds into the air. Through these tough times, plants and animals survived, in part because the air and water stayed safe. The field helped keep enough air to breathe and water to drink, so life could grow back over time. Scientists use clues from the past to see how the magnetic field helped life. When they look at very old rocks, tree rings, and ice, they see that plants and animals kept living, even as the field changed shape or the poles switched places. This shows that the shield works during strong times and weak times, allowing life to adapt and continue. The health of every human depends on clean air and fresh water. These are only possible because the field holds them close. If too much air was lost, people would become sick, tired, or unable to do daily work. If water dried up, crops would not grow, animals would die, and people would go thirsty. The shield created by the magnetic field means the planet's air and water are not stolen away by space. Life in the oceans is safe because the water stays in the seas and does not get carried away. Small plants called plankton live on the surface of the ocean, taking in sunlight and making food for fish and whales. These plankton are the start of nearly every food chain in the sea. If the water was lost, these tiny plants would disappear first, and everything that eats them would suffer. Forests, grasslands, and even deserts depend on the field. Rain falls, rivers flow, and plants grow because water stays on Earth. Clouds form from water that rises and falls back as rain or snow. The never-ending movement of water, called the water cycle, makes sure there is fresh water in lakes and streams. The magnetic field's shield lets the water cycle keep working. Plant roots reach deep into the ground for water. Leaves open to take in carbon dioxide and let out oxygen. Animals breathe the oxygen and eat the leaves, making the cycle of life continue. The magnetic field's shield lets these cycles of water, air, and food keep going year after year. If the planet's shield became weak for a short while, some plants and animals could adapt, using different ways to find food, water, or homes. But if the shield was lost for a long time, the Earth would become much less friendly. Wild places would dry out. Many kinds of animals and plants would disappear. Even people might find it hard to grow food or find enough clean air and water to live. People in cities and in the countryside depend on the field just like people did long ago. Even if machines and factories seem strong, none of them can replace the work the magnetic field does silently every day. The shield even helps protect soil, holding in the water and air so that tiny living things in the dirt can break down old leaves and turn them into the nutrients plants need. Without this work, the ground would lose its power to grow food, and crops would not be as healthy. Over time, Earth's animals and plants have changed to match the world around them. The shield of the magnetic field is part of this world. Life has grown used to having air, water, and soil that stays close. Even as the shield changes shape and strength, it stays strong enough to help life keep going. The story of the earth, the air, the water, the plants, the animals, and the people is also the story of the magnetic field. The field keeps the river running, makes the forests green, lets birds fly, and builds clouds in the sky. It reaches from deep inside the earth to far into space and covers everyone and everything that lives on the planet. No person, tool, or building can do what the magnetic field does. Only the deep moving metals inside the planet can make a shield so big and so strong. From the first days of Earth through many changes, the field has stayed always working, always protecting, always helping life grow and survive. Every drop of water, every breath of air, every seed that grows into a tree owes something to the shield of the magnetic field. With each passing year, the field lets new life begin and helps old life continue. The story of life on Earth would be very different without the invisible wall that stands between the planet and the dangers of the sun and space. The way air and water work together to make life possible is special. Clouds form when water in the air cools and rain falls to the ground. Rivers carry water from mountains to the sea. Grass, trees, and flowers grow with the water and air they need. By making sure the air and water remain, the magnetic field is part of every moment, every season, and every new beginning on Earth. The shield also protects young plants and small animals just starting to live. It keeps the soil full of food, the sky full of air, and the streams full of water. With each new spring, seeds grow and birds build nests, safe under the shield made by the field. Deep in the ocean, where sunlight barely reaches, the water still moves and life survives. On high mountains, where the air is thin and cold, animals and plants hang on because the shield keeps enough air and water. In the hottest deserts and the coldest parts of the world, the field's shield holds everything together. The Earth's magnetic field is not just a shield for big events like giant storms or huge changes from space. It works all the time, every day and night, in every place, for every plant, animal, and person. The planet's story is the story of this shield, quiet and unseen, but full of power. With it, life continues and new life starts, always, as long as the field keeps working far below and far above our feet. While the magnetic field is always present, most people do not notice it in daily life. Even though it holds air and water on Earth and quietly protects all living things, it is invisible to our eyes, and we do not feel it with our skin. Because the field has such a big effect on the world, scientists work every day to watch it, to learn how it changes, and to understand how it works. This is not a small task. The field is huge, always moving, and made deep inside the planet. To study it, people need clever tools, strong machines, and the help of computers and satellites far above our heads. The first ways people noticed the field were very simple. Long ago, people learned that a piece of special rock called magnetite, if hung on a string, would always point in the same direction. Later, this idea helped people make the compass, which uses a small piece of metal that always turns toward the north. With a compass, people could find their way in forests, across oceans, and when the sky was covered with clouds. The compass was the first tool people used to see the work of the magnetic field. Today, scientists use many kinds of machines to study the field in more detail. One important tool is called a magnetometer. A magnetometer is a device that measures both the strength and the direction of the magnetic field in a certain place. These machines are placed on the ground in many countries. Magnetometers help people know if the field is strong, weak, or changing. By connecting these machines to computers, scientists can keep track of tiny changes every day and night. Some magnetometers are used on ships and airplanes. When a boat crosses the sea or an airplane flies high above the ground, these machines measure how the field changes in different places. All this information helps scientists make detailed maps that show the power and shape of the magnetic field at many points on the planet. Satellites are another important part of studying the magnetic field. These are machines sent into space to fly high above the Earth. From above the planet, satellites carry special sensors that can measure the field without clouds or other things getting in the way. With satellites, scientists get a clear and full picture of the field's size, shape, and motion. Satellites can see patterns that people on the ground cannot. When giant solar storms hit the field, satellites notice the changes right away. By telling scientists on the ground, they help warn people if something big is happening. These warnings can protect airplanes, satellites, and power lines from too much energy. Satellites in space also help find places where the field is different, such as weak or twisted spots. When satellites fly over the South Atlantic Ocean, they see an area where the field is weak. This lets people take care with machines and astronauts who go through this zone. On the ground, scientists also use small stations to watch the field. These stations are in cities and faraway places, and they send data many times every hour to big computers. By using data from thousands of places, scientists make maps and graphs that show how the magnetic field is moving all around the Earth. Studying the field is not only about looking at the strength and direction. Scientists also use math and powerful computers to predict what might happen in the future. They collect many years of data and use it to see how the field may get stronger, weaker, or move its poles. These computer models are checked every day as new measurements come in. Understanding and predicting changes in the field is important for many reasons. When a very big solar storm comes from the sun, it can bring lots of fast particles that hit the magnetic field. This energy can shake the field, making bright auroras but also creating problems for satellites, phones, and electric grids. When scientists know a storm is coming, they can send warnings to airplane pilots, power companies, and people who use radios. Many countries work together to watch the magnetic field. Groups of scientists from every continent share what they learn. When a satellite sees a change, it sends a signal to people far away. If magnetometers on the ground notice a shift, the data is shared quickly. By working together, people can protect their machines, planes, and ships all over the world. New tools are always being made to watch the field better. Scientists are working to make smaller, faster, and more sensitive magnetometers. Some can fit into backpacks or be placed in hard-to-reach places like the middle of forests or deep in the ocean. With more tools in more places, the map of the field becomes more detailed and better understood. Airplanes use the magnetic field for safety. Most large airplanes have tools that use the Earth's field to help with directions. If the field changes quickly during a big solar storm, pilots are told so they can fly safely. Ship captains also use machines that help their boats sail straight, even when they are far from land. These machines rely on the field being measured and mapped. Modern electronics, like phones and cars, have small sensors that feel the magnetic field. A phone compass uses this sensor to show which way is north. Cars use sensors to help with finding directions. These devices work because scientists provide up-to-date maps and information about the field. Even the internet helps with watching the field by sharing data from stations and satellites everywhere around the Earth. Students, teachers, and anyone interested can look up maps of the field and see where the poles are and how strong the field is in their country. Space stations and astronauts depend on the field too. When astronauts fly around the Earth, they study how the field protects them from the solar wind. If a large storm is coming, astronauts are told so they can move to safer parts of the space station. Satellites are turned off for a short time or moved so they are not damaged. Scientists are always searching for better ways to see inside the Earth, deep where the field is made. They listen to waves from earthquakes and study the rocks that come up from volcanoes. Some teams use very sensitive equipment to find the tiniest changes that might mean the field is shifting deep below our feet. When scientists study rocks, they learn about the ancient field. By looking at the way small pieces of iron line up in rocks from long ago, they see how the field was thousands or millions of years ago. This helps people look back and see patterns. They learn how often the field changes, how often it moves its poles, and how life continued during all these times. Besides watching the field right now and learning about the past, scientists use computer programs to make predictions about the future. These programs use the rules of physics and the data already collected. They show how the field could get stronger or weaker, or how the poles could shift in the next years or centuries. Knowing how the field might change helps people plan. Power companies need to know if a big solar storm could come so they can protect their machines. Communication companies that send signals to phones or airplanes need warnings if there might be trouble. Farmers who use satellites to watch their crops need to know the field is safe for their information. In schools, teachers show students pictures of the auroras, the colorful lights made by the magnetic field and solar wind. Classes learn about how the field works and why it matters for air, water, and all life. Goods books and easy videos use simple language so everyone can understand how the field is measured and why scientists care about it. While much has been learned, there is much scientists still want to understand. Some questions are, how exactly does the melted metal move deep inside the Earth? Why do the poles move the way they do? When will the next magnetic reversal happen? Can people predict when and how strong the next solar storm will be? Each year, new tools and better math help answer these questions. Sometimes, there are surprises. A magnetometer might notice a fast change during a solar storm, or a satellite might see a new weak spot above the planet. When this happens, scientists work quickly to measure and explain what is happening. This knowledge is shared with people and groups everywhere, so everyone can be ready and safe. Research about the magnetic field has brought people in many countries closer together. Because the field covers the whole planet, everyone shares in its protection and everyone has a part in learning more about it. Hundreds of research stations send their data every day. Satellite pictures and graphs show how the field is stretching, moving, and changing. The magnetic field also connects to other subjects. People who study the weather, the oceans, and the deep earth all help with learning more about the field. Doctors and health researchers check how the field's protection helps keep people healthy. Engineers and builders make safe machines that can work even when the field is moving or when there are solar storms. Even everyday life is easier because the field is studied. Many cities have buses or subways that need power and signals. Power stations are built stronger because people know the field can change quickly. Maps are kept up to date for explorers and pilots. Every part of life is touched by the knowledge scientists learn from watching the field. There are museums with activities and experiments to let people feel how the field points north, or how strong it is in one place compared to another. Children can play games that show how a compass works, or see pictures of the beautiful lights at the poles. Some scientists even train animals like birds to see if they can feel the field. In zoos and universities, they watch how birds and turtles move when the field shifts. This helps people learn more about how living things use the field for finding their way. All these tools, magnetometers, satellites, computers, and more, help make a complete picture of the field as it is today, as it was in the past, and how it might be tomorrow. Every new machine and every new idea adds to what people know about this vital shield. People who care for the planet's health use this information to make good decisions. They work to protect the air, water, and land because they know how much life depends on the magnetic field to keep the planet safe. Each day, measurements are taken, maps are updated, and warnings are sent if there is any danger from the solar wind or if a part of the field looks weaker. This work makes sure that the world is always ready for any change, no matter how big or small. The more people know about the magnetic field, the more they care about protecting Earth. It reminds people that there is something powerful working quietly, night and day, above and below all life. This understanding helps everyone respect the natural shield that allows plants, animals, and people to grow and live. Keeping watch on the magnetic field is not only something for scientists. People everywhere can learn, pay attention to news, and share what they discover. From students and teachers to pilots, ship captains, or people just looking at a compass, everyone is part of knowing the field. As years pass and the magnetic field continues to change, the work of watching and studying will stay important. Sharing what is learned helps new generations see the value of the field and the power of nature, making sure that the planet's shield will always be understood and respected. Learning about the magnetic field helps us understand how nature keeps the planet safe in many different ways. The magnetic field is not only a shield for the air, water, and land, it is also important for the lives of many animals. For some living creatures, the magnetic field is like a silent guide. Animals do not use compasses or satellites, but many can sense the magnetic field and use it to find their way across the world. This special sense is called magnetoreception. Some birds can travel between far places as seasons change. When it gets cold, many birds fly south to countries where the weather is warmer. This trip can cover thousands of kilometers, crossing oceans, forests, and mountains. The birds cannot see all the way to their goal, and they do not have maps or signs. They use the magnetic field to keep the right direction. Tiny parts inside their bodies let them feel the field as they fly. With this help, birds know which way is north and which is south, so they do not get lost. Sea turtles are also travelers who cross the world's oceans. When baby turtles hatch on a beach, they walk to the sea and begin a long trip. Years later, after growing up in far places, they come back to the very same beach where they were born. Scientists have studied sea turtles and learned that they can read the magnetic field. The field has a special shape and strength in each place. The turtles remember these small details and use them as a kind of map. The journey may take many years and thousands of kilometers, but the magnetic field shows the way home. Some fish use the magnetic field to swim along great rivers or across the sea. One kind of fish, the salmon, is born in rivers. When it is old enough, it swims to the ocean. After years spent growing in the sea, it swims back to the same river where it started. Salmon can sense the magnetic field of the earth and follow it to find their way. Even very small animals use the magnetic field. Some insects, like butterflies and bees, travel large distances. Monarch butterflies, for example, fly from very cold regions to warm lands for the winter. Their journey crosses many countries. They use the magnetic field, together with other signs like the sun and stars, to go in the right direction. Bees may also sense the magnetic field to help find flowers and bring food back to their homes. Whales and dolphins live in the deep ocean and travel long distances each year. Their journeys can be many thousands of kilometers. Scientists believe that whales and dolphins can also feel the magnetic field. By swimming near special lines in the field, they reach places where food is found or where the water is gentle enough for having babies. Sometimes, people see whales or dolphins lose their way and swim onto beaches. Some experts think that changes in the magnetic field might confuse these animals, making them end up in places they do not expect. Dogs and some other mammals may have a weak sense of the magnetic field. Some people have noticed that dogs often turn their bodies toward north or south before lying down to rest. Some cattle and deer also seem to use the field to line up when they eat or move in herds. More studies are being done to understand just how these animals sense the field and use it in their lives. Birds are the most studied of the animals that use the magnetic field. Scientists have put small bands and marks on birds' legs to watch where they fly. In some cases, they put small radio devices on birds to follow their journeys. Again and again, the birds follow paths that agree with the shape and lines of the Earth's magnetic field. Turtles are also carefully watched. Sometimes, very tiny sensors are placed on the backs of baby turtles. Maps are made by computers, showing the exact path turtles take across the seas. The turtles' movements match changes in the magnetic field as the turtles swim thousands of kilometers. How do these animals feel the magnetic field? For many years, scientists searched for an answer. Now, They believe that some animals have special cells that have tiny crystals of magnetite inside. Magnetite is a mineral that is sensitive to magnetic forces. These tiny parts in the animal's body may move or send signals to the animal's brain when the field changes. The animal then knows which way to go. Another way some animals may sense the field is by using their eyes. In certain birds, a chemical in the eye changes shape when a magnetic field is present. This could let the bird see the direction of the field as a kind of pattern or brightness, different from how humans see the world. Many birds use both the magnetic field and the position of the sun or stars to travel. During the day, they watch the sun. At night, they look for patterns of stars or use the moon. When the sky is cloudy or the sun and stars cannot be seen, the magnetic field still gives them the information they need to keep flying in the right direction. It is not just the shape of the planet's magnetic field that helps. The strength of the field also changes from place to place on Earth. Each area has its own pattern of lines and strengths. Animals like turtles, fish, and birds remember these details. When they return to a place, they look for the same magnetic pattern they felt before. This helps them find the right river, beach, or lake. If the magnetic field were to suddenly change in a big way, many animals would be affected. Birds might fly along the wrong path and end up in new places. Turtles could fail to find the beach where they were born, making it hard to lay eggs and create new life. Fish might swim to the wrong sea or get lost before finding their home rivers. Whales and dolphins could lose their way and go close to the shore where they do not belong. Even slow changes in the field may cause animals to learn new paths over time. Some kinds of birds or turtles may stop using one beach or river and pick a new one that matches the field better. Nature allows animals to be flexible, but too many changes at once would be hard for many species. People learn from these animals too. When birds stop coming to the same places, it may be a sign that the field has changed. When animals act in new or strange ways, it can show that something is different in nature. By watching animals and learning from their journeys, people can also understand changes in the magnetic field. Scientists use the same information animals use to build better maps and tools. Airplanes and ships, for example, now have computers that know the exact details of the field at any point on Earth. These machines make travel safer for people and help guide pilots and captains when the sky is cloudy or dark. The study of animals also helps people know what changes might happen if the field grows weak or shifts its poles. Sometimes sudden changes in the field cause problems for animals. During very big storms from the sun, called geomagnetic storms, birds may become confused and fly in odd circles. Even lights in cities and loud music do not bother birds as much as big changes in the magnetic field. When these storms pass, the animals often find their way again and continue on their journey. Many children and schools do projects where they watch birds come and go as seasons change. They track when birds arrive, when they leave, and how many come each year. This helps scientists know if birds are having trouble with their journeys and if there are big changes in the magnetic field that might affect them. It is not only wild animals that use the field. Bees in gardens and small bugs in the soil also depend on the field for finding homes, flowers, and partners. Even small changes in the field can change the way these insects move or work. Many stories and legends from different countries talk about how birds or whales travel and how animals can always find their way home. Now, science shows that the magnetic field is a real part of that story, an invisible, powerful guide that helps life move across oceans, lands, and skies. Fishermen all over the world watch the behavior of fish and sea animals. When schools of fish move in new ways or when whales come nearer to shore, people notice and wonder. Some experts say these changes are connected to shifts in the magnetic field, making life in the ocean change for a while. These connections between animals and the magnetic field remind us that the field is not just something in science books. It is alive in the world, helping all kinds of living things every day. Plants, animals, and people all benefit from the shield and the guide the magnetic field gives. Many animals teach their young to use the field even if people cannot see it happening. A mother turtle lays her eggs on a beach, and one day the babies will feel the field and return. Birds follow their families on long flights, learning the way the magnetic field feels, so they can make the trip again the next year. Human technology is learning to copy the way animals use the field. Some robots and exploring machines now have sensors that act like the cells in birds or turtles. These machines can move in places where people cannot go, finding the best path by sensing the magnetic field. Every new discovery about how animals use the magnetic field adds to our knowledge. There are still many secrets left to find. Scientists continue to build better tools, train animals, and test new ideas about how living things feel and use the field. It is clear that the magnetic field is part of the daily life of animals around the world. The next time people see birds flying high in the sky, or turtles swimming in the ocean, or fish moving through the sea, they know that these living things are following something much greater than just wind and water. They are guided by the silent lines of the Earth's magnetic field, a natural map older than people, ships, or machines. Knowing how important the magnetic field is for animals shows that the field matters not only for safety from the sun, but also for the balance of nature. By protecting the magnetic field, people help birds find homes, turtles return to beaches, and fish swim great distances. The health of animals and the health of the field are tied together in every part of life on Earth. This close connection between the magnetic field and all living things is a reminder of how the world is made of many pieces working together. When people study the field and watch the animals, they see how nature uses many invisible forces to keep life going. The study of this topic brings people, animals, and the planet closer, helping all to find their direction in a world that is always moving. As people watch animals move across the earth, sky, and sea, it becomes clear that the magnetic field is important for many forms of life. But people themselves are also deeply connected to this invisible force. Even if humans cannot feel the magnetic field guiding their bodies like birds or turtles do, their lives are closely tied to the way this field works. The things that people build, the ways they travel, and the technology they use depend on the magnetic field every day. Humans have always been curious about finding where they are and which way to go. Many thousands of years ago, travelers looked at the sun, the stars, and the shape of mountains to learn direction. Later, people learned to use compasses. A compass is a simple tool with a small needle that always points toward the magnetic north. This made travel across land and sea easier and more certain. The compass works because of the Earth's magnetic field. Without the field, there would be no reliable way for the compass needle to know which direction is north. Today, millions of people move from place to place by airplane, ship, or car. Airplanes use special equipment to find direction and to know their place high in the sky. Many of these tools use the magnetic field to work correctly. If the magnetic field changes, the equipment is updated with new information so that pilots can still fly safely. Ships at sea also depend on the field. Sailors use compasses and other machines that read the field to travel across great distances without getting lost, even when there is no land in sight. In cities and towns, cars and phones have small sensors that can feel the magnetic field. This makes it possible to use maps on screens and to get directions. When someone turns on a compass app on a phone, a tiny piece of metal inside the device points to the magnetic north. Companies that make these tools check the latest maps of the magnetic field so that the devices work correctly everywhere. All of these helpful machines are only possible because the field around Earth is steady enough to use. When the field moves its poles slowly or changes in strength, people who make maps and technology keep careful watch. They update software and tools so that everything continues to work smoothly for travel and communication. Travel is not the only area that uses the magnetic field. The way electricity moves through wires, power lines, and electronic devices is also affected by the planet's field. People use electricity to light homes, power schools, and run hospitals. Long power lines that cross countries can be disturbed by sudden changes in the field, such as during powerful solar storms. If a large storm from the sun hits the magnetic field, too much energy comes down from space. This can cause problems in the power grid, sometimes turning off lights, stopping computers, or making machines work badly. To prevent damage, power companies and governments listen for warnings about strong solar storms. They may turn off parts of the power grid for a short time, use special equipment to block extra energy, or keep extra teams ready to fix things quickly. This planning is possible because scientists watch the field every hour and share news if something big is about to happen. Satellites that circle high above Earth are important for phone calls, television, weather reports, and even bank machines. These satellites move through places where the magnetic field is not as strong or where it is changing. Engineers design satellites to survive small changes in the field and to shut down or restart if a big solar storm hits. Satellite makers use data about the field's shape and motion to protect devices. Space stations where astronauts live for days or months are inside the shield of the magnetic field. The field keeps most of the solar wind and cosmic rays out, making sure the people inside are safe. When a large solar storm is coming, astronauts go to special parts of the space station with thicker walls. Space agencies share information from the field's watchers with astronauts and plan spacewalks when the field protection is best. Radio and television signals travel through the air by bouncing off a part of the atmosphere called the ionosphere. The magnetic field helps keep the ionosphere in place. When the field is strong and steady, signals go far and stay clear. When solar storms disturb the field, signals may break up and people can lose service for some hours. Because the field is so important for technology, people work together to study and protect it. Scientists build better machines for watching the field and share updates with pilots, sailors, and other workers. Whenever the field is likely to change quickly, news goes to airports, ship ports, and power stations, so actions can be taken to keep everyone safe. Children at school learn about the magnetic field and why it is special for their lives. Museums have displays showing the field's invisible lines, models of the core, and activities about how electricity and magnetic forces work together. All of this helps people respect the magnetic field and see it as part of everyday life. Even with all their tools and machines, people cannot change the magnetic field. The field's roots are deep inside the Earth, created by moving metals far below the surface. No town, city, or country can change how the core moves. Human actions, building roads, putting up tall buildings, running factories, or using electric power, do not affect the field's strength or direction. The field is a force made by nature, not by people. Some people ask if big things like drilling in the earth, mining metal, or causing earthquakes could hurt the field. Scientists explain that these activities only reach shallow parts of the ground. And the true source of the magnetic field is thousands of kilometers below, too far for anything people do to make a change. Even so, it is important for people to understand the field and to care for the planet. When people pollute the air or water, cut down too many forests, or harm the land, it makes life harder for plants and animals. But it does not reach the center where the field is made. Protecting the environment helps life on the surface, but only the core's movement keeps the magnetic field alive. While the magnetic field can change by itself, people must watch how fast it moves. Records of the field going back hundreds of years show that small shifts happen often, and the North Pole moves a little each year. Big changes, like a reversal where North and South switch places, are slow and natural. People watch for these changes so that travel, technology, and machines can keep working well no matter what the field is doing. The magnetic field gives people a chance to explore space. When people launch rockets, send probes to other planets, or put satellites in orbit, they count on the field to shield them from dangerous energy coming from the sun or deep in space. If the field was ever lost, space would become much harder to visit. Missions to study other planets plan their paths in ways that make use of the field's natural shield. Many people dream about living on other worlds one day. The story of Mars shows that a strong field is needed to keep water and air. Any plan to build a base on another planet must think about how to make a shield against the solar wind. Without it, living things would not be safe for long. Scientific research about the field goes on in many countries. Teams use computer models to predict how the field may change in the future. They run experiments to see how electricity and magnetism work together. Some experts are learning new things about how the field helps plants grow, how it shapes wind, rain, and climate, and how tiny changes can affect large areas over time. Artists and writers tell stories about the field too. Art shows the colors of auroras and the swirling lines of invisible force. Poems and books remind people that something powerful is always working around them, even though no one can see or touch it. New ideas come from old discoveries. By looking at rocks, studying old trees, and reading ancient histories, people learn that the field has always been part of life on Earth. Maps made hundreds and thousands of years ago can be compared to those made today, showing how the field shaped journeys and explorations long ago. The more people learn, the more they use the field to make life better. Hospitals use machines that depend on the field for pictures inside the human body. Farms use satellites protected by the field to study crops and weather. Rescue workers use maps and sensors to find lost people in wild places. While the magnetic field cannot be seen, its effects are everywhere around us. Technology, travel, health, and nature all depend on its safety and strength. Many people work quietly every day to be sure that the field is measured, studied, and respected. People also ask about possible dangers from the magnetic field. Some wonder if the field can cause sickness. Doctors and scientists have studied this for many years. Most experts say that the field as it is on Earth is safe. The field is natural, and animals, plants, and people have been living with it for billions of years. Scientists are always finding new ways to use the magnetic field for helpful things. Some new inventions use the field for finding oil and water underground, for measuring the health of forests, or for helping with maps of cities and countries. As computers get faster, new tools are being made that use the field in ways that were not possible in the past. People sometimes see the beautiful lights called auroras near the poles. These are reminders from nature about the field's power. Art, music, and celebrations in many countries honor the wonder of the night sky. Stories passed down by families teach children that the planet is protected and cared for by nature. Working together to understand the field brings people from around the world closer. No border or language stops the need to protect and study the magnetic shield. Teams share data, help each other build better equipment, and teach every generation why the field matters for all life. The future of the magnetic field will be watched by many eyes and many hands. People will keep using new machines, new ideas, and more science to learn what is happening below the ground and high above the sky. Each answer leads to a new question, and every discovery helps make the world a better, safer place. As lives grow more connected by technology, as more journeys are made by plane or ship, and as people think about visiting new planets, the magnetic field becomes even more important. Care, respect, and learning will help every person enjoy its protection for years to come. The story of humans and the magnetic field is the story of curiosity and hope. It shows how people use what nature gives, learn from the world, and share in something bigger than themselves. This story does not end because as long as Earth moves and life grows, the field will be part of every step, every journey, and every dream. The story of the magnetic field and humans is a journey shared by everyone on the planet. As people learn, build, and dream, they are always living under the protection of the field. But the magnetic field is also more than a shield for today. It offers clues about Earth's past, its changes, and its future. Long before cities, ships, and airplanes, the Earth's magnetic field was already working. The deep, melted metals inside the planet moved and made the field that reached to the surface and out into space. Even when the world was new, with only bare rocks, water, and first life, this force was there. The field helped air and water stay close, so rain could fall, rivers could flow, and simple life could grow. As millions of years passed, the planet changed slowly. Mountains rose, oceans formed, strange and wonderful animals appeared on land and in water. Plants grew tall, forests spread, and tiny creatures covered the world. All this life was under the shield of the magnetic field, which kept strong energy from space away from Earth. Scientists wanted to learn how much the field changed in all these years. They began to look for messages left by the past. One place to find these messages is in rocks. When a rock forms, small bits of iron inside line up with the magnetic field at that time. If the field was strong, the iron lines up one way. If the field was weak, or if the poles had changed, the iron points in another direction. By looking at old rocks from many places, scientists make a record of the field's story, showing times when the poles switched, when the field was strong, and when it was weak. These records show that the magnetic field has changed many times. The poles have moved, disappeared, and come back again in new places. These shifts are slow, sometimes taking thousands or even millions of years. But the field never went away for good. Even during the biggest changes, there was still enough of the field to help life survive. New forests grew, new animals appeared, and the story of Earth went on. Other clues are found in the ice from the coldest places on Earth. Deep in the ice, each year's snow makes a new layer. Trapped in the ice are little samples of air from long ago, and with special tests, scientists can tell what the magnetic field was like each year. This tells about strong times, weak times, and sudden shifts in the field. Tree rings hold their own record. As a tree grows, it makes one new ring each year. These rings can show not only rain and sunlight, but also changes from space. If the magnetic field got weak for a while, more energy from the sun or space could change how the tree's wood formed. By reading these rings, people find out more about what happened many years before anyone wrote things down. Scientists also learn by looking at lava from volcanoes and the dust in deep ocean mud. Each kind of material tells a part of the planet's magnetic history. All these records together show that the magnetic field is always moving, always changing, and always making a difference for life. Knowing about the field's past helps people think about the future. If the magnetic field changed before, it can change again. Sometimes it gets stronger or weaker. Other times the poles move quickly or even switch places. Scientists use what they know to guess what could happen next. This helps people who run airplanes, ships, or power stations to be ready for changes. It also helps people who study animals like birds or turtles to know why their journeys might change. Learning about how the magnetic field protected the planet helps everyone remember that the world is always changing. Nature does not stand still. The air, the water, the shape of the land, and the invisible magnetic field move and change together. This is normal and part of how the planet has always worked. The magnetic field also helps protect the future. Each year, new technology appears. Satellites, computers, and machines are made to work with the field, traveling safely, measuring life, or sending messages around the world. If the field gets weak, these new inventions must be ready for sharper energy from space. Engineers use data from the field to improve their tools and update their software so that life can go on, even if the magnetic field is different tomorrow. As people dream about visiting other worlds, such as Mars, they discover that no other nearby planet has a magnetic field as strong as Earth's. Mars is now dry and cold, but might have looked more like Earth a very long time ago when it had a field. Because the magnetic field on Mars ended, the solar wind took most of the air and water away. Now people know that any plan to live on another planet must protect air and water the way Earth's field does. The Earth's field is also part of how people think about the planet's future health. When scientists see signs that the field is slowly getting weaker, they do more tests and think about what might happen. Will it get stronger again? Will the poles move far from where they are now? Do animals or technology need extra help if the field changes faster than before? Sharing these questions helps people work together and find answers by using new science and better tools. At the same time, looking at the magnetic field's history reminds people of how special life on Earth is. For billions of years, everything depended on the field's silent work. It kept the planet safe enough so that plants, animals, and humans have a home full of air and water. It shows that the planet is not just a place to use, but something to care for and to protect. The field also links us to many times and places in the history of our world. It connects children now to those who lived thousands of years ago, who used a simple compass to explore new lands. It connects a single animal finding its home to all the journeys across long ages, made easier by the field. Every person and every living thing has a share in the story of the magnetic field. Books, museums, and lessons in schools keep this story alive. Children learn about the field, build models, and do experiments to show how it works. Teachers guide students in making simple compasses so everyone can see the field in action. Artists and writers make poems and pictures about the field, sharing its invisible power with everyone. With each new question about the magnetic field, more is learned. People used to think the field never moved. Now, science shows it is always changing and helping animals, people, and machines in ways that can be measured. Every year, new information is added to maps and records. More discoveries are waiting in the future. Satellites will take better pictures from space. Computers will draw more exact maps, showing how the field moves each day. People will create safer ways to use electricity, travel, and talk, all with the help of what they know about the magnetic field. Families out for a walk might look at a bird in the sky or a plane flying high. They can remember that both are moving with the help of the magnetic field. At night, people in some places may see the soft glow of the auroras. The colors in the sky tell the story of the field working with energy from the sun. When people pick up a compass or use their phones to find which way is north, they use a part of the long history of the Earth's field. Every plant, tree, animal, and person lives, knowing the field is there, even if they do not see it or feel it. Plants grow, seeds travel, animals find new homes, and people use the field to explore and build. The field is part of every breath, every drop of rain, and every piece of earth we touch. The future of the magnetic field is not certain. It may grow weaker and then stronger again. The poles may move to new places. But the lessons of the past show that life will grow and change with the field. By watching, learning, and sharing, people will always be ready for what the field brings next. While no one can change the magnetic field by themselves, everyone can care for the world that depends on it. Saving water, keeping air clean, protecting wild places, and learning about science are all ways to help. When people come together, they make sure that the air, water, and the field stay strong for the future. The story of the magnetic field is the story of everything on Earth. It is a lesson in connection and respect. The invisible shield holds the world together, makes life safe and bright, and reminds us that our planet is full of wonders still to discover. Every time someone looks at the sky, touches the ground, or learns a new fact, they are part of this story. As the years go by, scientists will keep searching, tools will get better, and children will keep asking new questions. The magnetic field will keep working deep below and high above, linking together all the days of Earth's past and all the hopes for its future. Understanding the magnetic field, how it started, how it changes, and how it protects everyone and everything, is a key part of understanding why Earth is our home. It is one of the mighty natural gifts that makes the world unique, precious, and alive. It tells us that by learning, caring, and respecting each other and the planet, we help keep the story going for all who come after.